Have you ever felt like something was off, but couldn't explain why? A strange heaviness, a shift in sleep, or an invisible presence in the room? What if your body was trying to warn you quietly, subtly, that time is running out? That death might be closer than you think. Death waits for no one. It doesn't knock, doesn't text a warning, doesn't pause to ask for permission. It strikes in silence, often when we least expect it, ripping loved ones away and leaving a trail of unanswered questions behind. Most people avoid thinking about it entirely, pretending it's something far away, meant for someone else, somewhere else. But what if recognizing the signs early could change everything? The unsettling truth is this: our bodies often whisper warnings days, weeks, even months before death arrives. These aren't superstitions or ghost stories. They're biological realities, proven, documented, and observed by medical professionals across the world. In this video, we're not here to spook you, we're here to empower you. I'm going to break down the 5 most telling signs that death could be approaching. These are the signs doctors know, but rarely share, until it's too late. And if you're watching for yourself or someone you care about, this knowledge could be a gift, a final chance to prepare, to connect, to choose with clarity. So I urge you, watch till the very end. Every sign connects with the next. Skip even one part, and you might miss the one clue that changes everything. If you're short on time, no problem. Just bump the playback speed to 1.5x or 2. But please, don't miss this, because once these signs appear, there's often no turning back. Let's begin with where the body first whispers the truth, often quietly, at night, in your own bedroom. Sign number 1, sleep patterns that suddenly change. This isn't about staying up late to binge Netflix or hitting the snooze button. It's deeper, more instinctual. It can feel like your body is rewriting the script on its own. Some people begin sleeping far more than usual, 12, 14, even 16 hours a day. It's as if your internal battery is losing charge, faster and faster, and no amount of sleep can refill it. Your energy vanishes, your limbs grow heavier, and simple tasks feel impossible. But here's the twist. Others experience the complete opposite. Doctors call it terminal restlessness. You're bone tired, yet sleep refuses to come. You toss and turn, feeling a strange anxiety deep in your chest. It's not the mind keeping you up. It's something older, something primal, as if your body itself knows that something profound is shifting within. So why does this happen? And what does it mean when your sleep turns into something that no longer feels like rest? We'll explore this and the 4 other signs that follow. But for now, ask yourself, have you, or someone close to you, begun sleeping far more, or not at all? In those final months, your body isn't trying to live fully, it's trying to survive wisely. What seems like a burst of energy or a sudden change in appetite is often your body quietly shutting down non-essential systems. It's not panic, it's precision. Imagine your brain as the captain of a sinking ship. Water's rising, systems are failing, and resources are low. The captain makes a choice. Let's power only what's absolutely necessary. Keep the heart beating, keep the lungs going, everything else can wait. So digestion slows, hormones stop regulating like they used to, your muscles shrink quietly, and your sense of time, your circadian rhythm, that built-in clock that kept you steady since you were born, starts to unravel. Suddenly you're wide awake at 3 a.m., restless, staring at the ceiling. Then you're falling asleep with a spoon in your hand at dinner. Night becomes day, day becomes night. Is it just stress, a bad week, a strange mood? Here's how you can tell the difference. If it's just a rough patch, maybe a deadline at work or excitement for an upcoming trip, your sleep will eventually return to normal. But when these changes last for weeks and no amount of routine or relaxation resets them, that's when it matters. More importantly, these disruptions usually come hand in hand with other changes. We'll talk about those soon. But know this: doctors have observed that sleep pattern reversals often begin 1 to 3 months before death. It's like the body sending a coded message: we're shifting priorities now. We're entering the final phase. Interestingly, it's not the person themselves who usually notices, it's the people around them. A spouse, a caregiver, a grandchild who asks, "Why is grandma always sleeping during the day now?" So if you, or someone you love, has had a radical, unexplained change in sleep that's persisted for weeks, it could very well be sign number 1 of what's to come. But don't jump to conclusions yet. One sign never tells the whole story. That's why you need to understand the second sign, one that many families misinterpret at first, even celebrate. Because it seems positive, until it becomes tragic. Sign number 2. Unexplained, effortless weight loss. Now, let me be clear. This isn't the result of a new diet or a fitness plan. This isn't about cutting carbs or joining the gym. This is something deeper, quieter, more dangerous. I'll never forget the moment it hit me. I was visiting my grandmother, who had always been the heart of the kitchen. She was the kind of woman who made sure no one left her home hungry. Cookies. Just because it's Tuesday, extra mashed potatoes for anyone who seemed a little tired. But that changed. Suddenly food meant nothing to her. The meals she once loved came back untouched. "I'm just not hungry anymore," she'd say, brushing it off like it was nothing. Her favorite blouse began to hang on her shoulders. Her pants didn't fit anymore. It wasn't dramatic at first, just a few pounds. Then, quietly, almost without us noticing, she lost nearly 30 pounds without trying. What we were witnessing was something called cachexia, a clinical term for the body's wasting syndrome. This isn't just weight loss, it's not healthy or intentional. It's the body's way of preparing to shut down. When the systems responsible for building and maintaining muscle begin to fail, the body begins to consume itself to survive, and tragically it's often ignored. Or worse, celebrated. "You look great," people say. "You're finally losing that stubborn weight." But if that weight is vanishing without effort, without cause, and especially if the person is also sleeping more, eating less, or growing weaker, it's time to look deeper. Because this isn't self-improvement, it's self-preservation, taken to the edge. When the body knows its time is running short, it doesn't just slow down, it reorganizes its priorities. And the digestive system, once a hard-working engine that consumed vast amounts of energy daily, becomes one of the first systems to be powered down. You see, digestion isn't just about eating. It's an energy-intensive process involving the stomach, liver, pancreas, intestines, all working in harmony. But when death approaches, your body essentially sends a message. We no longer have the fuel to run this machinery. Shut it down. This isn't like skipping meals when you're sick or losing your appetite for a few days due to stress. No, this is persistent. It doesn't go away with comfort food, rest, or recovery. Even your taste buds change. Water might suddenly taste metallic. Sweet foods might turn bitter. Your favorite dishes become unrecognizable. This isn't your mind playing tricks. It's your biology evolving, adapting to the end. Now here's where it gets emotionally confusing. Sometimes, in the middle of this decline, the person may suddenly start eating again. "Look," someone says. "He's eating. He must be getting better." But unfortunately, that burst of appetite is often just a temporary fluctuation, a final spark before the system dims again. It's not recovery. It's a false dawn. So what separates this from typical weight loss? First, there's no effort involved. No dieting, no gym visits, no goals. The weight just disappears, even if you're barely moving at all. And it's everywhere, not just the waistline. Your face, your arms, even your fingers begin to look thinner, bonier, more fragile. What's happening internally is this. Your body is conserving energy for the most vital organs, the heart and the brain. Just digesting food alone takes up 10% of your daily energy. When energy is scarce, that 10% is redirected to what matters most. This process typically begins 2 to 4 months before death, and once it starts, it's progressive. It doesn't reverse on its own. It doesn't pause. It doesn't respond to your favorite snacks or protein shakes. And unlike intentional weight loss, this comes hand in hand with extreme fatigue, weakness, and a complete loss of interest in eating. So, if you or someone close to you has lost weight drastically and without reason, and their appetite seems to have vanished completely, then you may have just identified sign number 2 out of the 5 signs your death might be approaching. But before you draw conclusions, remember this. These signs form a pattern. To truly understand what's happening, you need to see the full picture. And that leads us to the 3rd sign, perhaps the most emotionally painful for families and the most misunderstood. Because this next change, it doesn't just affect the body, it begins to change the mind. After the body begins shutting down physically, draining energy from digestion and shrinking in form, the next change is subtler, but even more profound. It's a shift that doesn't happen in the muscles or organs, it happens in the mind. When the body starts making its final preparations, the mind does too. And what happens next is often misunderstood, but strangely beautiful. You, or your loved one, may begin to detach from the everyday world. The work deadlines that once stressed you out, the bills, the broken sink, the long-held family tensions, suddenly they feel distant. Almost meaningless. This shift can confuse even those closest to the person. It's often mistaken for depression, or in elderly individuals, perhaps dementia. But it's not that. It's something entirely different. This isn't dysfunction, it's preparation. Your mind, sensing what's coming, begins to let go, not out of fear, but out of an almost spiritual wisdom. Think of it as the brain's way of protecting you from the pain of unfinished business. It softens the noise. It quiets the need to control. It opens space for acceptance. Scientifically, it's astonishing. Your neurochemistry begins to shift. The parts of the brain that process fear, stress, and social anxiety begin to dial down. Meanwhile, parts associated with intuition, memory, and even spirituality become more active. You might notice someone becoming suddenly philosophical, asking deeper questions, speaking in metaphors, or contemplating the meaning of life. Or they might begin talking to deceased relatives, mentioning names you haven't heard in years. They might even appear to carry on full conversations with people who aren't physically there. This isn't hallucination in the typical sense. It's a brain beginning its graceful withdrawal from this reality, but here's where it becomes even more surreal. Doctors have a name for this moment. It's when someone who's been confused for weeks, unable to recognize faces, barely speaking, suddenly becomes perfectly clear. They sit up, smile, call people by name, hold conversations full of warmth and clarity. It feels like a miracle. Families often rejoice. They're coming back to us. But tragically, this moment of clarity is often the final gift. A last window of awareness before the final journey begins. So how do you know if this is something serious or just part of normal aging? Look at the speed and intensity of the change. This isn't a slow personality shift over years. This is a dramatic transformation over days or weeks. And it often begins when the person still seems physically stable, about 1 to 2 months before death. That's why it's so hard for loved ones. They may think, why isn't he fighting harder? Why won't she care anymore? But here's the truth most people miss. This is not giving up. This is letting go, a deeply compassionate biological process designed to make the transition more peaceful. So if you or someone you love has suddenly become emotionally detached, focused strangely on the past, or showing dramatic shifts in behavior or awareness, then you've just identified sign number 3 of the 5 signs that death might be approaching. And if you've made it this far, I know this video is changing how you see life and death. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. Because recognizing these signs isn't just about predicting death, it's about being present while there's still time. We just explored how the mind gently prepares for farewell, detaching, reflecting, and offering one final moment of clarity. But while the mind is making peace, the body continues its silent transformation. And this next sign, it shows up in the mirror in ways that are hard to ignore and even harder to explain. At this point, it's not just about how you feel inside, it's about what you can physically see on the outside. The 4th sign that death may be approaching is one that's surprisingly visible. Unlike the subtle changes that creep in with age, this is a rapid and noticeable transformation. A visible shift that reveals your body's new mission: conserve energy for survival at all costs. And the first system to begin changing course is one we often take for granted: your circulatory system. The complex network of blood vessels that nourishes every cell in your body starts to reprioritize. Your body, now operating on limited resources, makes a critical choice. We can't keep sending blood everywhere anymore. Let's protect the core, keep the brain, heart, and lungs alive. So it begins pulling blood away from the extremities, the fingers, toes, hands, feet, and instead focuses on keeping the central organs stable. That's when the first visible sign may appear: mottling, medically known as mealing. Patches of skin that begin to look marbled, often in shades of blue, purple, or red. This mottling typically starts in the feet and hands, then slowly creeps up the arms and legs as the process continues. Then comes a temperature shift. Touch someone's hands or feet. They might feel ice cold, not just cool, but cold to the point of discomfort. Meanwhile, their chest or torso remains relatively warm. This isn't the same as getting chilly on a cold day. This is your body abandoning the effort to heat your limbs because the energy is needed elsewhere, to preserve life for just a bit longer. And that's not all. Another chilling indicator is in the breathing. Doctors call it Cheney-Stokes breathing, a distinctive pattern where breaths deepen, then shallow, followed by moments of no breathing at all, sometimes lasting 10, 20, even 30 seconds. Then suddenly the breath returns. This rhythm is a clear signal that the brain's control over respiration is weakening. The muscles involved in breathing are no longer receiving steady instructions, and the pauses between breaths grow longer and more unpredictable. Look at the nail beds, an area most people overlook. They might turn pale, even bluish, as blood flow slows. The skin may appear waxy, almost translucent, like candle wax left too long in the sun. These changes are often dramatic, clear enough for anyone to see, even without medical training. What's happening beneath the skin is profound. The body is shutting down non-essential systems. Your peripheral blood vessels, those farthest from the heart, are no longer being prioritized. Energy is being pulled inward, inward, inward. Because at this stage, survival isn't about fighting anymore. It's about preserving just enough to finish the journey with dignity. As circulation slows and the hands and feet grow colder, the body's mission becomes crystal clear. Preserve oxygen and energy for the 3 most vital organs: the heart, the lungs, and the brain. This isn't random. It's intentional. The extremities constrict, allowing the heart to work less. Oxygen use is carefully rationed, like a flickering lantern in the final hours of a stormy night. This sign, the changes in circulation and breathing, doesn't drag on for months. It usually appears in the final weeks, even final days. It marks the body's final preparations before the journey ends. And in these physical changes lies a lesson, one many of us never consider. Our bodies are unbelievably wise. They don't panic, they prioritize. They know when to let go of what's no longer essential. They know what to protect, and they know exactly how to do it in order. There's a kind of biological intelligence here that humbles us, that inspires awe. So if you or someone close to you is showing signs like mottled skin, cold hands or feet, irregular breathing or bluish nail beds, you've now identified sign number 4 of the 5 signs that death may be approaching. But there is one more sign, and it might be the most intimate, the most misunderstood, and the most important of all. Sign number 5, the body's final communications. Let me ask you this, have you ever sat beside someone who was gravely ill? Not just sick, but nearing the end. If you did, was there something different about them? Something you couldn't explain? A certain smell, maybe? Unusual movements? Sounds that didn't quite make sense? If so, you might have witnessed one of the most mysterious and profound phases of dying, a series of subtle but purposeful final communications. Most people miss them, others see them, but misunderstand. But once you understand them, you'll realize something powerful. Even as the body shuts down, it's speaking, it's sending signals, it's orchestrating its final act like an orchestra playing a last hauntingly beautiful movement. Each system steps down in a particular order, and there's a conductor behind it all, ensuring the transitions happen gently, gracefully. Often the sense of smell is the first to change. There may be a distinct scent in the room, not foul, not unclean, but chemical. It's caused by shifts in how the liver and kidneys process toxins and waste in the final stages. Then come the sounds. You may hear a rattling, gurgling breath, something medical professionals call the death rattle. It happens when a person can no longer swallow or clear fluids in the throat. It's not painful, it's just part of the body's final rhythm. These moments are often misunderstood. They scare people. They make us think something is wrong. But in truth, this is the body's natural language, its way of easing itself and everyone around it into the final rest. One of the most unsettling things for family members is hearing that gurgling sound, the so-called death rattle, as a loved one nears the end. It's a sound that echoes through the room and strikes the heart. But here's what's important to understand. It isn't painful for the person experiencing it. Why? Because their body has simply stopped using energy to clear secretions in the throat and airway. They're not choking, they're not struggling, they're conserving energy for only the most critical functions: breathing, heartbeat, awareness. Another thing you might witness are unexpected movements, fingers plucking at sheets, hands reaching into the air as if searching for something invisible. These aren't random. They're caused by shifts in oxygen levels and changes in the brain's chemical balance, a subtle disruption in the way the mind perceives the body and its surroundings. And then the body begins to shut down in a remarkably organized sequence. First, the digestive system stops. Then, the kidneys slow their filtration. The heart and lungs, though, often keep going until the very last breath. And incredibly, the brain, our most mysterious organ, stays active far longer than we once believed. But perhaps the most awe-inspiring discovery in all of this is what happens with the senses. Even when a person can no longer respond, even when their eyes are closed, their hearing often remains. That's why doctors and nurses always say, speak to them. Tell them you're here, because they probably hear you. And this leads to something else, almost mystical. Have you ever seen someone hold on until a certain loved one arrives at the bedside? Or wait until after a birthday or anniversary before letting go? It's not coincidence. It's the final proof of the powerful connection between mind and body, even in the last moments. Because death, just like birth, isn't a moment, it's a process. It has stages. It has a rhythm, and if we look closely, it has meaning. Understanding these final communications isn't about feeding fear. It's about recognizing the sacredness of this transition. When we see these signs for what they are, we're no longer confused, we're prepared. We can gather family. We can shift our focus from cure to comfort. And most of all, we can be fully present. So if you or someone you love is experiencing these signs, unusual smells, movements, sounds, or sudden changes in senses, you've now recognized sign number 5, the body's final communications. Together, these 5 signs, sleep disturbances, appetite and weight loss, mental withdrawal, circulatory and respiratory changes, final communications, form a complete map of how the body prepares for its final journey. And now you know the map. You hold the knowledge. Not to fear death, but to honor it. This isn't about sadness, it's about empowerment. Because when you know what to look for, you can make the most of whatever time remains. We've just witnessed how the body communicates in its final hours, through movements, sounds, sensations. But now comes the part we often avoid the most, what we do with this knowledge. If you've seen these signs in someone you love or even in yourself, don't panic. Instead, take a breath, ground yourself. And then, take practical, compassionate action. Have the conversations you've been avoiding, the ones about wishes, about dignity, about what really matters at the end. Talk openly. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It rarely comes. Reach out to hospice services. They exist not to extend life, but to enrich it in the final chapter. These teams are trained to provide comfort, clarity, and support in ways that most families simply can't do alone. And trust me, the peace that comes from being prepared is priceless. There is nothing more comforting than knowing you said what needed to be said, gave what needed to be given, and shared what needed to be shared. Because those who recognize and accept these signs often experience something extraordinary, a deep, unshakable sense of completion. But those who deny, avoid, or resist often face confusion, fear, and regret, so don't be the one who looks away. Don't ignore the signs. Don't miss the chance for a meaningful goodbye. Don't waste your final moments pretending death isn't real. Instead, use this knowledge as a gift. Use it to create a beautiful, intentional ending. Say what needs to be said. Apologize if you need to. Forgive freely. Hold hands longer. Laugh at the little things. Cry, but not out of fear, out of love. Before we end, there's one more thing. The algorithm is already suggesting your next video. It's not random, it's the one that will help you take everything you've learned today and apply it to living more fully with the time you still have. Click it. Because in life and in death, timing is everything.